I went camping in a small desert town called Solstice Oasis last month. I was 35 and on summer break, so I thought it would be a good time to gather samples for my geology classes. I had always loved deserts, especially the peace they offered. I set up camp in the warm sand, surrounded by adobe-style houses painted in earth tones. It felt quiet and safe. One night I went out to collect samples when I heard something. Heavy footsteps were near me. I stopped, thinking it must be wildlife like a coyote. I shook it off and kept working, but that sound nagged at me. It felt wrong. The next few days were weird. I found strange tracks in the sand leading from the dunes to the town. They looked different. They shifted in size and direction, almost like something was wandering back and forth. I tried convincing myself it was just the wind shifting the sand. But then I noticed the locals were acting stranger than usual. They whispered about missing pets and spoke of unsettling dreams. I felt anxious, but I didn't know why. I strolled through town, hoping for answers. I spotted an older man on his porch. "Have you seen any strange tracks lately?" I asked him. He looked at me with a serious face and pointed toward the horizon. "They're out there, you know." His response puzzled me. I nodded, unsure of what to say. Something about his stare told me he wasn't joking. I felt a chill creep over me. More people left town as the days went by. The atmosphere felt heavy, almost suffocating. I felt like I was losing my grip. I wanted to leave, but I needed to solve this mystery. I couldn't just ignore those tracks. Then one evening I found myself back by the dunes. The sun was setting and everything turned dark. I saw a figure standing in the distance, just staring at me. My heart raced. I called out, "Are you okay?" There was no answer. I squinted, trying to get a clearer look, but before I could move closer, it vanished. As night fell, I thought I could hear footsteps again. They echoed all around me. I wasn't sure if they were real or in my head. I felt so vulnerable. It was as if something was watching me, just waiting for the right moment to pounce. Then I remembered the tracks, the whispers, and that figure. What did it all mean? My skin crawled with dread. I turned to leave, but then I felt it. Something was right behind me. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't turn around. I didn't know what was there. All I knew was that I had to get away. But I stood there, paralyzed by fear, waiting for the next step. And somewhere in the darkness I thought I heard a voice whispering my name. I felt the whisper wrapping around me like a cold wind, sending shivers down my spine. I dared to glance over my shoulder, my heart pounding. Nothing was there, but the air felt different, heavy, alive. I slowly turned back toward the dunes, ready to bolt, and then I saw it. The tracks. They were different now, like they were calling to me. My scientific curiosity pushed through my fear, and I felt compelled to follow them. I took a few hesitant steps forward, each crunch of sand echoing like a drum in the silence. As I walked, the tracks led toward a cluster of rocks that jutted out from the sand, dark against the fading light. I could see a faint outline of something behind the largest boulder. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but a mix of fear and fascination kept me moving forward. When I reached the rocks, I crouched down. The footprints parted from the sand at a sharp angle, almost like they had been dragged. It didn't seem natural. My mind raced with questions. What had made them? That's when I noticed something shiny half buried in the sand. I reached for it, my fingers brushing against hollow metal. It was a locket, old and tarnished, engraved with a strange symbol. A spiral intertwining with a jagged line. My heart raced even faster. The locals had mentioned symbols in their whispers. Was this part of it? Suddenly, a rustling noise came from behind me. My breath hitched. I turned quickly, locket clutched tightly in my hand. The figure from before wasn't far, standing at the edge of the rocks, watching me. Its outline was like a shadow mixing into the evening. I couldn't make out any features, but I felt its eyes boring into me. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to sound brave. My voice trembled despite my effort. But there was no response. The figure just stood there, still and silent, as if waiting, just like I had moments ago. Panic surged through me. I stepped back, my mind racing. Had they been the one leaving the tracks? Were they the reason for the town's fears? With uncertain steps, I backed away from the rocks, keeping my eyes locked on the figure. The locket felt heavy in my palm. Just then, a faint laugh echoed through the air. Not a joyful sound, but something eerie, almost mocking. I turned to run, stumbling over the sand as I broke into a sprint. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of town. My breath was ragged as I glanced back toward the dunes. The figure was gone, but I could still feel its presence lingering in the air. When I reached my tent, I found it ransacked. My supplies were scattered across the ground, my notes missing. Panic surged again. I felt something slip away from me, pieces of my investigation vanishing into thin air. I grabbed my phone, trembling as I scrolled through the contact list. In that moment, I realized, if I didn't act quickly, I might never uncover what was happening here. Then everything went dark. The power grid must have failed, plunging Solstice Oasis into a void of silence. A sense of dread settled in. I knew the darkness wasn't just about the lights. I stepped outside, heart racing. The air was thick, pressing down like a weight. But I had to know. I had to find out what lurked in the shadows. The whispers were growing louder in my mind, calling for answers while caution screamed for me to run. Somewhere in the darkness, I thought I saw that figure again, moving closer. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud, and I felt the weight of it pressing in. I stood there, straining my eyes to see anything beyond the tent's perimeter. The whispers from earlier lingered in my mind, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were pushing me to step forward. Taking a deep breath, I felt a chill race down my spine. I had to get answers about what was happening here. If I was going to make sense of the tracks and the figure, I needed to confront the fear head-on. I remembered the locket I found, the strange spiral entwined with the jagged line. It had to mean something. I turned my focus back to the edge of town, knowing the path toward the dunes was where I'd been pulled time and again. I cautiously made my way through the darkened streets, the cold wind rustling through palm fronds overhead. Each step felt heavy, like I was walking through a dream. My heart thudded in my chest and anxiety flickered at the corners of my mind. What was I getting myself into? As I approached the dunes again, the creeping shadows seemed to shift and sway. When I reached the spot where I'd found the locket, I stopped and scanned the area. The wind whispered through the sand. Had it said something? Or was my imagination just playing tricks on me? I glanced down at the locket in my hand. It was still cold against my palm, as if it held some hidden warmth just waiting to be unleashed. I turned it over, looking for a mechanism or a latch. I needed to see if there was more to it. Just then, I heard a soft crunch behind me, a footstep, deliberate and slow. I spun around, and the figure was there again. Closer this time. My breath caught in my throat. It was just as I had seen before, a dark silhouette with no distinct features, yet it radiated a sense of knowing. "Why are you here?" I managed to say, though my voice was barely above a whisper. There was no response, just the weight of its gaze, and the laugh from before echoed again, hauntingly playful. I squeezed the locket harder, feeling a pulse radiating from it, sinking with the thudding of my heart. Desperation gripped me. "What do you want?" A low hum rang through the air, like a distant song carried by the wind. I felt something shift in the atmosphere, and the figure tilted its head slightly. It took a small step forward, and I instinctively took one back, the dunes shifting under my feet. Before I could think, I unfolded my phone and flicked on the flashlight, illuminating the area. The beam cut through the darkness and fell on the figure. To my shock, it didn't flinch. Instead, shadows curled around it, swallowing the light whole. "Whispers do not speak," it finally said, its voice emerging soft and chilling. "They guide." A wave of panic and confusion washed over me. I turned to run again, fueled by adrenaline. As I took off, I felt the ground shift beneath me, almost as if something was emerging from the sand. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being followed, the sound of soft footfalls echoing behind me. I darted around the nearest building, looking for a place to hide. The shadows danced behind me, closing in, while the whispers urged me to listen. to understand the truth that beckoned from the shadows. And that's when I tripped over something in the sand, sending my phone skidding away, the light flickering as it went out of reach. The world fell into darkness again, and the whispers surged louder. Just as I hit the ground, pain shot through my knee, but I didn't have time to register it. I scrambled on all fours, desperate to retrieve my phone. The darkness felt alive, swirling around me, and I heard something shift behind me, something heavy. "Get a grip," I muttered to myself, forcing my hands to work faster. I finally found my phone and fumbled to turn on the flashlight again. The pale beam flickered hesitantly before breaking through the dark. I pointed it toward the direction I thought I'd heard the noises. The sand shifted. My heart raced as I saw a shape begin to emerge. Not the figure, but something larger. A lump pushing up from the ground as if something was being unearthed. Panic surged through me again. I was running out of time. I spun around, and the figure stood right in front of me now, blocking the path I had just taken. Its presence swallowed the light. I couldn't see any features, but I felt its attention, heavy and suffocating. "You can't keep running," it said, voice low and resonant like the shifting dunes. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted, my voice trembling. I wanted answers, even if they terrified me. The whispers harmonized into a crescendo, and I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block them out. But they pierced through the noise, echoing in my mind. One phrase stood out. "Find the heart." "Find what?" I gasped, desperation clawing at me. I glanced at my surroundings, searching for anything that might lead me closer to understanding. The figure leaned closer, shadows defining an outline that seemed more substantial than before. I felt something inside me resonate with it, like we were tied to the same thread of fate. "The heart," it repeated. "It lies buried beneath fear." Then, in a sudden burst, the coldness around me intensified. I felt the weight of despair pressing down. I had to move. I pushed myself to my feet and started stumbling backward. The dunes shifted once more, revealing what looked like a small, sunken area in the sand nearby, just to my left. Glancing back at the dark figure, I channeled my fear into courage. "You want me to find it, don't you?" I asked. It was silent for a moment, just watching. Then I heard it, a low, vibrating hum emanating from the direction of the sunken area. I didn't know what it meant, but I felt drawn to it, the way a moth is drawn to a flame. I took a tentative step forward when the ground began to rumble. The whispers morphed into urgent voices urging me to dig. "Now!" they screamed. I dropped to my knees and started clawing at the sand, my heart racing as waves of noise crashed against my ears. My fingers hit something hard, something cool and metallic. I scraped away more sand eagerly, revealing what seemed to be a chest, covered in strange symbols. Just as I wrapped my fingers around it, I heard a loud crack, a shift, and the world around me began to tilt. I had uncovered something significant, but did it come with a price? I pulled the chest closer, the whispers now turning into frantic cries. "Open it!" But then, a piercing light erupted from the chest, enveloping me in a blaze of white. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was the figure lunging forward, shadows reaching for me. And then, silence. I gasped as the world came rushing back, my lungs filling with air like I'd just broken the surface of water. I lay on my back, staring up at the glittering stars above. Confusion washed over me. Where was I? What had happened to the figure? I pushed myself up to a sitting position and looked around. The desert was quiet now, but I could still feel the adrenaline coursing through me. The chest was gone. My phone lay on the ground, its screen cracked but still lit, the flashlight flickering weakly. I clenched my fists, fighting the rising tide of panic. I needed to figure out what was going on. My mind raced, recalling fragments of the figure and the whispers. Find the heart. What did that even mean? I stood, checking that my knee still bore weight. It screamed at me, but I ignored it. I had to move. I scanned the area for any sign of the chest or the figure, but I was alone now, still immersed in the eerily calm aftermath of whatever had just happened. Then a rustling sound caught my attention. I turned quickly, heart pounding. To my right, sand shifted again, revealing more peculiar symbols etched into the ground. The same symbols as those that adorned the chest. What was left of it, anyway. They glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath the surface. I gulped, stepping closer. The whispers returned, rising like a tide. "It calls to you," they said, sweeping over me like a soft breeze. I felt their urgency, their insistence. I knelt down slowly, my hands trembling as they hovered over the area where the symbols glimmered. "I don't understand," I muttered aloud, half to myself and half to whatever presence was lingering around me. "What do you want from me?" As if in answer, a gust of wind swept through the dunes, chilling me to the bone. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, scanning the horizon for signs of life. Was I truly alone? My phone lit up again, and I noticed a new notification. It was from a news app, the headline blaring, "Last month's strange footsteps led to a town-wide evacuation in the desert." I clicked on it, breath hitching as cursoring eyes scanned the text. It spoke of unexplainable events, similar disappearances, and strange lights spotted in the desert at night. A chill ran down my spine. My panic escalated. Had I stumbled into something bigger than myself? That's when I saw it. On the edge of the sand, a faint silhouette against the stars. A figure, dark and indistinct, watching me. My heart raced as recognition set in. It had returned. "Find the heart," it echoed again, but this time it felt less of a command and more of a warning. The weight of its presence pressed down, and I could sense my next choice needed to be decisive. Was I going to run, or was I going to uncover the truth? The trembling in my hands grew, but I drew a deep breath, steeling myself. Whatever lay ahead could either bring answers or even more questions. And then, without thinking, I took a step forward. As I stepped closer to the figure, I felt a strange pull, almost magnetic. My heart fought against the urge to flee, but curiosity took the reins. The whispers grew louder, intertwining with the sounds of the desert night, echoing the same chilling phrase, "Find the heart." "Who are you?" I called out, my voice harsh in the silence. The dark shape remained still, its features obscured in shadows. It felt like an eternity, each second stretching painfully long. Then, without warning, the figure moved, gliding across the sand with unsettling grace. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I stood my ground, bewildered and captivated. "Find it," it urged, its voice a whisper carried on the wind. "You must—" The sound of footsteps echoed in my mind, clearer this time. They were footsteps of urgency, the ones I had read about in the article. They led somewhere, but where? A sense of dread washed over me as I recalled the town's evacuation. What had they discovered? Before I could question further, the figure gestured toward the glowing symbols. It was as if it was trying to guide me. The pulsing symbols seemed to grow brighter, beckoning me closer. I took another cautious step, feeling an inexplicable pull towards them. Each symbol felt alive under my fingers as I traced the carvings. They shimmered, vibrating under my touch. Suddenly, a jolt of energy surged through me, sending waves of light dancing across the sand. I pulled my hand back, startled. "What is this?" I whispered. The figure remained silent, observing me with an intensity that made the air crackle. I felt it urging me to make a connection, to understand what lay before me. But confusion clouded my mind. Then, out of the blue, I caught movement from the corner of my eye. Another figure emerged from behind a sand dune, moving swiftly towards us. My heart raced at the sudden appearance. It was not alone. "Get away from her!" the newcomer shouted, voice hoarse with urgency. My fear erupted into panic. Who was this person? Did they know the figure? The dark silhouette turned slowly, facing this new intrusion. A tension filled the air and the atmosphere shifted. I felt trapped between two entities, each embodying mystery and something deeper than I understood. I glanced back and forth, trying to gauge the threat. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the earth trembled beneath us. The symbols flared white-hot, illuminating the night, and the ground cracked open, swallowing the space between us. "Run!" The newcomer shouted again, and instinct kicked in. I didn't think. I spun on my heel and took off toward the distant horizon, the wind a howling blur behind me. But even as I ran, the whispers chased me. "Find the heart," they called, echoing against the night. I could feel it. Something was waiting for me in the darkness. What was it? The figure? The heart? I didn't know, and that terrified me more than anything else. Then everything went dark. When I came to, the world was muted. I lay on the cool, hard ground, disoriented. My head throbbed, and the echoes of the desert night were replaced by an eerie silence. I rubbed my temples, trying to collect my thoughts. What had happened? Slowly I sat up, taking in my surroundings. I was in a narrow canyon. Tall, jagged rock walls loomed above me, obscuring the stars. The familiar glow of the symbols was gone, replaced by a dull darkness that wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I was alone. Unease settled in my chest, but I forced myself to stand. The air was still, holding a tension I could almost taste. The whispers were quieter now, but just as persistent. "Find the heart," they urged, almost in rhythm with my heart rate. But where was I supposed to look? As I took a step forward, I stumbled slightly. My foot struck something hard and cold. I looked down to see it. A stone with an engraving that matched the symbols from the desert. It gleamed faintly, as if resonating with my presence. I picked it up, feeling a warmth radiate from it that contrasted with the chill of the surroundings. "Not again," I muttered, glancing around. The canyon seemed to close in on me, and panic flickered at the edges of my mind. I recalled the figures, the dark silhouette and the one who had yelled for me to run. Did they know where this heart was? Why was I here? Just then, I heard a noise behind me, an echo of footsteps. My heart raced again. "Keep it together," I whispered to myself. I turned, keeping the stone close. "Hello?" I called out. My voice wavered in the emptiness. "Is someone there?" A shadow moved deeper within the canyon, and I felt a surge of dread. "Who's there?" My hands trembled around the stone. "I'm not going to hurt you," said a low voice, hesitant but familiar. The figure stepped into the pale moonlight. It was the newcomer from the desert, the one who had shouted at the figure. Relief mixed with a new wave of fear. I didn't know if I could trust them. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. "I came to find you," they declared, urgency laced in their tone. "We don't have much time, it's looking for you." "What is?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The heart," they said, their gaze darting around the canyon. "It's closer than you think, but we have to hurry." Before I could respond, a sound echoed like thunder, shaking the ground beneath us. "That's it," the newcomer yelled, their face pale. "It's coming." The walls of the canyon seemed to vibrate, and I could feel the energy in the air shift. I looked at the stone in my hand. It hummed with power, as if it held answers I was too afraid to uncover. "Follow me," I shouted, feeling the urgency that gripped my chest. We had to escape whatever hunted me, but the question nagged at me. Could I trust this person? Together we ran deeper into the canyon, the whispers growing louder until they surrounded us. It wasn't just a call. It felt like a command. But what lay at the end of this path? That was when I saw it, an otherworldly light flickering at the far end of the canyon. "Over there!" I yelled. But as I took a step toward it, I heard the ground rumble again, even louder this time. It knew we were close. I ran towards the light, pulling my companion along with me. The shadows danced on the canyon walls, twisting around like frightened things trying to get away. Whatever was behind us drew closer, and I could hear it, an unnatural growl that reverberated through the air. "Faster," I urged, my heart pounding. The stone in my hand felt like it was burning, alive with energy. It guided me forward, urging me to reach the light. As we approached, I could see it was not just light, it was swirling, almost alive itself. "Wait!" my companion shouted, now dragging me back. "We need to be careful." I hesitated, glancing back down the canyon. The dark shape loomed closer, revealing a chilling silhouette against the moonlight. My heart raced. "What if we don't have time?" I replied, desperation seeping into my voice. What if it's already too late? Trust me, they insisted, the urgency in their tone igniting another wave of doubt. We need to find a way to control it. This light, it could protect us, if we approach it properly. I gritted my teeth, torn between fear and the hope that this might be our salvation. How do we do that? It's not just any light. You have to perform the ritual, they said hurriedly, glancing back at the dark figure. Their eyes darted, constantly seeking solace from the undeniable danger lurking nearby. The stone, you must activate it by speaking the words. My heart sank. What words? Words of the ancients, they replied, breathless. A prayer to summon the heart. The growl echoed loudly now, nearly drowning out their voice. I felt the ground tremble beneath us in sync with my fear. I don't know any words. Just believe in it, they urged, gripping my arm. The stone will help you. I closed my eyes, grounding myself in the moment. I didn't know what to say, and yet something drew my mind back to the whispers. Find the heart, they repeated, and suddenly the words flowed like water. Oh, great heart that beats, awaken. The stone in my hand pulsed, radiating warmth that expanded, filling the air around us. It thrummed with power, and I felt an answer, solid and right. I continued, the words pouring from my mouth as if they had been waiting to escape. Guide me through the night, shield me from the fright. The light grew brighter, filling the canyon, pushing away the shadows. As I stepped toward it, I could see shapes forming, images of figures that flickered and danced, beckoning me closer. Then I heard it, a heavy thud reverberating through the air. The growl surged into a roar as shadows twisted and formed into something monstrous. It was more than the dark figure. It was a creature born of nightmares, eyes glowing with ravenous hunger. Keep going, my companion shouted, urging me into the light. I took another step, and the warmth enveloped me. It felt like a shield keeping the monster at bay. The whispers intensified, wrapping around me, chanting along with my plea. Just as I felt we might overcome the horror, the creature lunged. Then everything dimmed. Darkness swallowed the light, and I gasped as I was thrown backward, the stone slipping from my fingers. No! I screamed, reaching for it, for the light. And then I knew it. I had to fight. I had to reclaim that heart. I hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the breath from my lungs. My vision blurred, and for a moment I was disoriented. I pushed myself up, heart racing, the shadows swirling around me again. I felt the cold bite of fear creeping in, but I couldn't let it take hold. I needed to focus. The stone was gone. I frantically scanned the rocky terrain, hoping to see it glinting in the moonlight. But all I found were shadows, deep and uninviting, coiling like smoke. Where is it? I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. Over there, my companion yelled, pointing toward the left. They moved cautiously, the dark figure still looming nearby, now closer than before. It hadn't retreated. It was drawn to my vulnerability. I spotted it, a dull sparkle against the stones. I see it. I ran toward the stone, fear melting into determination as I stretched out my hand. I could feel the creature behind me, the heat of its rage radiating. Just as I grabbed the stone, a shadow swooped down, a wicked claw just inches from my back. I stumbled but regained my footing, wrapping my fingers tightly around the stone. The energy surged back, filling me with an urgency I hadn't felt before. Activate it, my companion shouted, glancing back. We don't have much time. Heart pounding, I recalled the words. Oh, great heart that beats, I began, but doubt seeped in, choking my voice. What if they weren't enough? What if it wasn't the right ritual? Help us. The growl echoed, now mixed with a terrifying shriek that sent chills down my spine. The shadows materialized into grotesque shapes, a flurry of faces writhing in agony, their mouths twisted in silent screams. I couldn't let this horror take us. Trust in the heart, my companion encouraged, their eyes wide with fear but their voice steady. I steadied my breath, trying to channel their strength. I lifted the stone high, feeling its warmth seep into my skin. Awaken, I shouted, louder this time. Guide me through the night, Shield me from the fright." The air pulsed with energy, the words filling the canyon like sunlight breaking through the dark. The shadows hesitated, recoiling from the brightness that began to surround us. The light flared, swirling violently, fighting against the dark presence. But just as it seemed we might have the upper hand, a deep rumbling sound echoed from the canyon walls. The ground trembled underfoot, shaking the very air we breathed. "What now?" I shouted, panic rising. The monster was still there, its glowing eyes locked on us, filled with insatiable hunger. Then, as if in answer to my fear, a fissure in the earth opened up nearby. The ground split wide, revealing a chasm that yawned like a gaping mouth, eager for whatever fell victim to its jaws. "Run!" my companion yelled, pushing me forward as the creature lunged again, its maw wide and ready to devour. We darted away from the gaping abyss, the light of the stone flickering uncertainly. I wasn't sure where to go now. I just wanted to escape, to find safety. But behind us the growl grew sharper and the shadows surged, ready to strike. That's when I saw it, a glimmer in the dark. Something else was waiting for us, something not human. The fear in my chest twisted like a vice. What waited in the dark could be far worse than the creature chasing us. I felt the panic surge within me, but all I could think was that I had to hold on to the stone. It was now or never. The glimmer was growing brighter, and despite the monstrous creature hot on our trail, a strange sense of clarity took over. The whispers grew louder again, insistent and almost gleeful. "Find the heart, find the heart. Keep going," I urged my companion as we zigzagged through the rocky terrain. My heart raced not just from fear, but from an overwhelming determination to uncover whatever truth lay hidden beneath this desert. The chasm loomed behind us. The growling monster was closing in, and I could almost feel its breath on my neck. I pushed harder, but my eyes darted back toward the light. "What is it?" I shouted, desperate for answers, yet captivated by the flickering brilliance that seemed to pulse in rhythm to the whispers. "It might be the heart," my companion replied, breathless. "It could be our only chance." Without thinking, I turned toward the light, ready to plunge into whatever awaited on the other side. As we ran, a sensation surged through me, an inexplicable urge to embrace the unknown. I couldn't stop now. I could feel the stone heating up in my palm, almost alive with energy. The monster roared, jeweled eyes filled with fury glinting in the dark. But as we reached the glimmering light, it flickered once more, drawing me in, promising knowledge, perhaps even freedom from this terror. "That's it," I yelled as we both reached the end of the rocky narrowing. I grabbed my companion's arm, and together we leaped toward the light. The moment we crossed the threshold, everything shifted. For a heartbeat, the universe suspended, breathless. The low growl behind us turned to silence. The light embraced us, filling every corner of my mind, illuminating truths I could never have comprehended. Images darted across my vision, lost souls, intertwining destinies, sunlit groves, the laughter of children, and the shadowing dread that populated Solstice Oasis. "Where are we?" I managed to whisper, feeling both monumental and minuscule within its vastness. "This is the heart," my companion half whispered, wide-eyed and filled with awe. "We found it." But as I gazed at the illuminated scene before me, I understood it was more than just a heart. It was a culmination of everything, fear and hope, darkness and light, a prism of existence battling for dominance. Yet part of me sensed that the darkness from the canyon had bled into this space, committed to reclaim what it lost. Suddenly the light flickered violently, colors straining against one another like storm clouds brewing. My heart skipped. "We need to go back." "But it's a trap. The creature, we can't face it." "We have to," I shouted in reply, firm. "Somehow, we need to find balance. We can't let the darkness win." The whispers grew frantic, pulsing through me. "One must remain. One must awaken the cycle." Strings of light began to twist and spiral into a central point, coalescing into a heartbeat, echoing for us both to listen. "What do you mean?" I asked, panic gripping my core. The sounds faded into odd silence, And then one figure swept through the light, a manifestation of the creature. It glided closer, its shadow merging but not threatening. "Only then will true peace emerge," it echoed, no longer a growl but an ominous yet soothing whisper. "One must release the heart to heal the fractured truth." I turned to my companion, fear threading through my voice. "What does that mean?" Before we could converse further, a surge of panic broke through the brilliance and I leaped back, knowing that my escape route was slipping away. Moments slipped by like sand through fingers, shadows clung to the periphery, and panic reigned as I demanded, "No, we can't let it consume everything." My eyes caught the stone glowing faintly in my palm, a remnant of the outside chaos. Gripping it tightly, I felt a connection. The whispers weren't just echoing words. They were the truth waiting for recognition. The heart against the light merged seamlessly. I knew what I had to do. Summoning everything within, I inhaled deeply, channeling the words of the ancients once more. "Awaken. Guide me through the night," I chanted, pouring my despair and hope into the light. Shadows curled and twisted as I declared, "I choose to embrace the heart, to heal what is torn apart." Energy surged, exploding around us, bathing the darkness in brilliant hues until the shadows began to evaporate into nothingness. But just as I felt I might succeed, a final howling roar echoed through, resonating with all my fears, and the chaotic silhouette lunged. With a final heartbeat echoing in unison, shadows erupted, engulfing me once again. And then, silence fell heavy in the air. I opened my eyes. I was back in Solstice Oasis, the night quiet and still, though the echoes of the chaos lingered in the corners of my mind like smoke. The desert surrounded me, calm yet eerily familiar. I looked around, mind racing. The townspeople were stirring, some peering curiously out of their adobe homes, while the stars twinkled above, unaltered. The signs of the mystical heart had faded, yet I grasped the stone tightly. It pulsed softly, as if in recognition of the events that had unfolded. I still felt it, raw energy swirled within it. My mind raced with questions. Had we truly conquered the darkness, or only temporarily held it at bay? What happened to the heart, and what would its absence mean for Solstice Oasis? I was overwhelmed with uncertainty, yet deeply aware that things could never go back to how they were. "Are you all right?" My companion rasped nearby, their eyes searching mine. "I don't know," I replied honestly, "but I think we might have just scratched the surface." The figure I once feared seemed an amalgamation of the shadows that painted my nightmares, and the light that danced across the stars, and with it came the realization that the truth was forever entwined, always lingering, just out of grasp. As I turned to the town, unsure of what tomorrow would bring, I felt the first hints of dawn breaking on the horizon. I wondered if things would ever settle down, if the whispers would cease, or if some truths were meant to remain hidden. But for now I was alive, a synthesis of experience and doubt, bound to a mystery that only deepened as day broke over Solstice Oasis.